Chapter 2 in Access starts on page 70 in the dark blue or purple section in your textbook. And let me go to OneDrive. We're going to start by opening the Copper State database in our Chapter 2 data files for Access. So as soon as I get there. So in your class files on OneDrive, you're going to go to the Access folder, AL1 Chapter 2. AL1 stands for Access Level 1 Chapter 2, where I don't want you to open it, I want you to download it. So put a check mark beside the file name and click Download. And just let it save into your Downloads folder. If you're using Chrome, it's there anyway. If you're using Explorer, just click Save and it will download there. Now, if you are in, we're all going to do it the same way. So if you're in Chrome, you don't have this bar that shows up down here at the bottom. So click on your folder icon in your taskbar, your File Explorer. Looks like a folder. If you click on that, open it, go to Downloads. You should have an Access file in there. It will probably be the only thing you have in there, unless students this morning downloaded something. Now just open it. So you're in the Downloads folder. Do not open it from OneDrive. You're opening it from the Downloads folder because Access does not save, like all of our other programs do, to SharePoint. So this is our workaround. So we're downloading it to the computer. Then we're going to open it from the computer and work on it. Is there anyone that's not in this place? I hear some talking, so I'm not sure. Anthony, are you all right? How about you, Andrew? Do you have this saved in the Downloads folder? Okay, so now just go to the Downloads folder. Click the folder icon on your taskbar. Okay. All right, so now let's open that. And it might take a while to open. Make sure you do not have a bar here that says read only. You shouldn't, because you downloaded it. It should be your file. Click Enable Content. Okay, let's look for a minute on page 70. Let's see if this will work my morning. Okay, on page 70 in your book, you have this diagram. This whole thing is the database for this insurance company called Copper State. Each one of these is a table within that database. These lines that are directional, that are going from one table to another, those are called relationships. So the clients table has a relationship with the claims table. The claims table has a relationship, two relationships with the coverage table. The client also has a relationship with assignments, and then so on and so forth. That's what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on this database that we have open. Excuse me. And then we're going to create some relationships, and then I'm going to explain to you how those work. We'll actually do that. I could explain all this to you ahead of time. It wouldn't make any sense until you actually do it. So once we do it, then I'll explain to you why we did what we did when we get to the point where we're going to use it. I am eating a Fireball and it's burning my mouth. All right, so let's open the claims table. Over here in the left navigation window, we have 4 tables that have already been created for us. Open the claims, double click it. It shows up in our main window. My goodness. Now we're going to change the view of this table. We've been working in what's called data sheet view. So when you see anything that looks like a table, it's called the data sheet view. We're going to change this view to design view. On the home tab, on the far left of the ribbon, it says view. You can click the drop down arrow and see that there are two views, but you really could just click the icon because it toggles between the two views. So we're in data sheet, I can click this button and it changes me to design view. And by default, claim ID is selected. The field claim ID, we're gonna set this as the primary key. So on this tab that's already selected for us, there's a key right here. And the reason we set primary keys is because it is a unique identifier and in each record. In every record that we work with in this table, the primary key field, and in this case it's claim ID, has to have a number in it. If it or it doesn't have to be a number, it has to be data. If it doesn't, you'll get this weird message. Sometimes the primary key causes some problems. It doesn't in chapter 2. We'll see, hopefully it doesn't in the future, but there have been times when I'm working in Access where I have to turn this primary key off. Otherwise it creates problems and then I put it on at the end. I suppose if I was working in Access every single day, I would know a real use for a primary key. I even highlighted, I read everything the book had and I still couldn't find like why, what would be necessary. Why do I absolutely need a primary key? Maybe we'll figure that out before we get to chapter 5, which is where we'll end in Access. All right, so go ahead and close the claims table, just the table, not the entire database, just the table. If it asks you to save, say yes. And now we're going to create those relationships. So click the Database Tools tab. And click the Relationships button. There's more than one way to do what we're getting ready to do, but I'm just showing you the way that I was taught and the way that I've used it. We are going to create relationships in 3 different tables: clients, claims, and coverage. So I'm going to click the clients table and I'm going to drag it onto this window. Don't double click it, just drag it and drop it into this gray area. Claims, do the same thing. And coverage. So I have 3 tables dropped into my relationships window. Notice each one of these has a primary key set, and maybe this is the purpose of the primary key, the actual ultimate purpose. Possibly, we'll see. By the way, it doesn't matter how these are organized. I like to, you'll see once we start to create these relationships. I could put them like that. The book actually just has them side by side, like this. It really doesn't matter. We're going to create what's called a one-to-many relationship. And we're going to use the clients table and the claims table to create that relationship. And it's kind of weird because the one table is the first table we're talking about. So we're using the client ID from the clients table. So I want you to click in the clients table on client ID and drag it and drop it onto the client ID in the claims table. Make sure it's the client ID, not the claim ID. Drop it right on top of the client ID on the claims table. We just created what's called a one-to-many relationship between these 2 tables. And once we do that, we get this edit relationships box that comes up, and it will tell me the client ID field in the clients table is related to the client ID field in the claims table. And I could read step number 5 in assessment 1 that says create a one-to-many relationship with the client ID field in the clients table, which is the 1, and the client ID field in the claims table, which is the many. And right down here it says the relationship type, one-to-many. And I know right now that makes no sense to you why we're doing it, but it will I promise when we get to assessment number 3. So make sure you put check marks in these 3 boxes because it tells us in step 5 to enforce the referential integrity and cascade the fields and records. And click create. So we get a little line. The little line is drawn from the client ID field in the clients table, and it says number 1. And then the many sign, the infinite sign, goes to the client ID in the claims table. And if I were to move the claims table, that line would move with me. Okay, now step 6 says to create a one-to-many relationship with the client ID field in the clients table and the client ID field in the coverage table. So same thing, we're going to click the client ID in the clients table and drag it and drop it on top of the coverage client ID, sorry, of the client ID in the coverage table. We get a one-to-many relationship. We're on the correct fields, and make sure you check the 3 boxes: enforce referential integrity, cascade the fields and records, and click create. And you get the one-to-many sign again, lines. And I'm just, how you organize these really is up to you. I mean, when I did it on my own the first time, I did it like this. So it doesn't matter. I just like the way this one looks. Then we're getting ready to mess it up with this next one. Are there any questions so far? All right, so the next step says we're going to create a one-to-one relationship with the license number field in the coverage table and the license number field in the claims table. So we're going to start in the coverage table, and the license number is the primary key. And we're going to go to the license number in the claims table and drop. Make sure you're in the correct fields, license number to license number. So license number from coverage to claims. Make sure you check the 3 boxes: enforce referential integrity and cascade fields and records. And create. So now we have this line, it's a 1. Okay, it did not work correctly. It should be a one-to-one, and mine is a one-to-many. Click that line between those. It should say 1-to-1. In my last class, it worked. And click Edit Relationships. It should bring that one up. As long as you have clicked that line, Edit Relationships, it should bring that one up. And it's one-to-many. And why is it? Oh no, it's one-to-many. It's a whole nother, never mind. Sorry, click OK. It's good. I'm thinking of a whole nother assessment that we'll be working on soon. Okay, so see how we've messed the lines up now. So we have 3 one-to-many relationships. Basically what we're saying is one client can have many claims. Okay, this is an insurance company, so think about insurance claims. It's an automobile insurance company. One client can have many different types of coverage. One license number can have many different claims. Okay, I want you to click the Save icon up on the Quick Task toolbar. It's the little blue disc. And we're going to look at what this would look like if we wanted to print. And yours does not have to be laid out exactly like mine does. Click Relationship Report. It's in the Tools gallery. And it shows up like this. So it has each table, it shows the lines. If we wanted to print this, we're not going to print it, but if we wanted to, this is how we could choose for it to print. Now I want you to click Save again. The reason why is we're actually going to save this report. It should have a name now. Just click OK. Notice in the left-hand side in your taskbar, we have 4 tables and we have 1 report. Now I want you to close both of these. Do not choose Close Print Preview. If you do, it takes you to a different view. So close both of these, not the entire database, just these bottom X's. So we have nothing else open. Okay, are there any questions? Do you have a question? You want me to come help? Okay. Okay, I anticipate a lot of questions with Access, so. Okay, so then just close these right here. Yeah, no, you've got right. This one, and then close this one. Yeah, no, it looks like it's okay. Okay, so you're going to click Relationship Report. You're in the right place. Okay, now click the Save button. And just click OK because it already has a thing for us. And see how it shows up in the reports images. Okay, so now there you go. Okay. Anyone else? Don't be ashamed to ask questions. Access is not an easy program to use until we've used it and used it and used it quite a bit. And then it's very, very useful. And if you work for an insurance company, I guarantee you're going to use a database. Okay, we're already ready for assessment number 2, if you're following along. I try to follow the book, but this is the 4th time I've done this, so sometimes I will skip or say something like I just did, thinking I was ready for that. Let's create the table at the bottom of page 71. But I want you to follow along with me while we create the field names. So click the Create tab, choose Table. We have 1 column already created. By default, this column, ID column, is auto number, and it's the primary key, always. So we need to change it from auto number because we're putting letters in. If you notice in table, the bottom of page 71 for Office ID. So I want you to click the column ID. Just click in there 1 time. It should be selected like mine is, the red line around it. On the formatting gallery, it says auto number. You see where it says that? Change that to short text. This seems to be the biggest problem that I'm seeing right now, short text. The field size is changed to 2. This is the only one we're changing the field size to 2. So we changed the data type to short text and the field size to 2. If you do not change the data type to short text, you can't change the field size. Now double click the word ID and change it to Office ID. As soon as you press enter, it takes you to the click to add next column. So we've created the very first field, Office ID. We're ready to select or create the second field, which is address. So choose short text. This one's easy. All we're doing is changing the field name from field 1 to address. We're not making any other changes to the properties of this field. So once you type that, press enter. We're ready for the third field, which is city. So choose short text, change the field name from field 1 to city. Now it's the next field where it's going to change a little bit, so make sure you're staying with me. We have 3 fields created: Office ID, address, city. Yes? Okay, that's because You didn't change the data type from auto number to short text. I'm guessing. Okay, and don't put any periods in there, just capital I, capital D. Press enter. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, if you look at that table on the bottom of page 71, you'll see that every state is Arizona. So in order for us to save a little time, we're going to put in a default value for this next set, or for this next field, which is state. So I'm in city, I pressed enter, I have the drop-down menu. If you don't have this, just click the drop-down arrow next to click to add. Once again, it's going to be short text. I'm going to go straight to default value before I ever change the field name. I'm going to click default value in the properties because I want Arizona to show up AZ every time. So click the default value. This expression builder box shows up. There is an equal sign and leave it there. Your blinking cursor is after the equal. You're going to put quotation marks, capital A, capital Z, quotation marks. Anytime we're putting text in a cell, it has to go inside quotes, just like Excel, in an expression. So click OK, and the text AZ should show up in that cell underneath the field name. Did it? If it didn't, let me know. Okay. Yeah, it says field name at the top and then AZ underneath. Just like that. Yep. Okay, the state Arizona is not the field name. It's just what will go, it's the default value that will go in that cell every time, so we don't have to keep typing it. Now let's change the name of the field. Right now it's field 1, so just double click the word field 1 and type state. Short text for your next field, and this is the zip. Okay, now I'm going to completely deviate from chapter 2 and tell you how to put in a mask for this very last cell, which is for a phone number. I don't want to have to type those parentheses or that dash every single time I'm typing a phone number, the parentheses especially. So I'm going to create what's called an input mask. And I need to do that in design view. So on the far left of your ribbon, click the view button, and it changes you from data sheet to design view. The name of this table is offices. Want you to save. So that is one thing I love about Access is it's always asking you to save anytime you're doing something different. Okay, this is where I always create field names. To me, this is much quicker, much faster. It just makes more sense. So Office ID, you'll notice, is the primary key. Right underneath zip, we're going to click in this blank row and type telephone. Tab over, short text shows up because it's the first option for data type. And we have all of these properties down here that show up in the bottom. There's a lot we can do here, but we're going to create what's called an input mask. So we have telephone, short text. Down here in input mask, do you see that in the general, down here in the field properties? Click in that row right next to input mask. The far end of that cell, there's an ellipse. 3 dots with the box around it. I want you to click that. It says, do you want to save? Yes, I want to save. Input mask. You're clicking in the blank cell to the right of input mask. Yes. Oh, nice. Okay. Okay, press escape. Press escape again. I won't let me escape out of it. There we go. Okay. Yeah. no default value here, so
Yeah.
go ahead and delete that. Okay, you're good. But we're not typing anything down yet, so go back to click on the view tab. So we're not typing anything down in here yet. And the offices is the name. Offices. Okay. And then right underneath zip, click in that one, so type telephone. Tab over. Now click right next to him, the mask down in the properties, this like so, ellipse, and that'll be where we are. Oh yeah, say yes. Okay, who else needs to get to this point? Anyone? Okay. You'll notice for an input mask. Oh, did you leave? Oh, you have to leave early? Yeah. Okay, so save this and upload it to OneDrive. Go to next. This one and next. And check. Don't go back. Check this top one. And then next. Okay. So now go back to that. Just click it back. And I guess we can save. So, all right. So what you're going to do is. And yeah, so make sure you upload that from your downloads folder. Okay, anyone else have a question? All right, this just makes it easier for us when we're typing. So you'll notice the most common input mask is phone number. So click next. It's asking us, we could actually change this if we wanted to, but I like the format. It's exactly what the book has in the picture down at the bottom of 71. So click next. But here we are going to choose the top option. We want to store our data with the parentheses, with the dash, not just the numbers. So click next, finish. It puts some weird information into our input mask. I don't know if we'll ever make it far enough in the chapter so we can explain what that is, but I'm not going to right now. So go ahead and go back to data sheet view. Yes, you do want to save. Okay, so now we can type in the information in this little table on page 71. So within our insurance office, we have all of these different offices, or our insurance company, I should say. I'm also going to auto fit my columns, so those of you who don't have a book, make sure you're bringing your book. Notice we don't have to type the AZ for Arizona. How many of you, I hear lots of dings. Something my morning class did was, for some reason under address, table tools fields, they had changed the field size to 2. The only column we changed to 2 was office ID. So I hear lots of dings. On the telephone number, all you have to do is type the numbers. You do not have to type any of those symbols. That was the purpose of us putting a mask in. I could spell, it'd be good. If you tab through something else the morning class had, make sure your numlocks key is on your 10 keypad if that's what you're using to type your numbers. Notice you're not having to type the AZ in every time.
Can we put add for short?
Well, you shouldn't have to be typing in that AZ. It should be there as a default value. By some chance you didn't put it in as a default value, you just type it. But imagine if we had 500 of these, how much time it would save you by having that default value in there. I'm going to minimize this just for 1 minute because I'm going to change my screen resolution. I did that this morning and it worked well. It looks ridiculous, but it worked. Okay, there you go. Maybe you can see that better now. Try to escape, use your escape key. That's going to be your #1 fix in Access is to escape. Escape, okay. It's because you still have to set as auto number. It's trying to auto number and not put an ID in there. It should be short text, field size should be 2. But you have to do that in all of them, not just the one. All right, now you can come in here and type what you need. You're welcome. If you're finished typing, if you're a quick typist, go ahead and auto fit these columns. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty short. It's just all at the bottom of 71. Okay, now we're going to actually create another relationship with this table that we just created and a couple of other tables. So even if you're not finished typing, I want you to stop and follow along with me. Some of you, I still hear typing. I want you to stop. And I want you to close the offices table. You can always add to it later, but for now I want it closed. It's going to say, do you want to save changes? Yes. Click Database Tools, Relationships. It's going to bring up the relationships we've already created. We're going to add to this. Step 5 on Assessment 2 says, we're going to create a one-to-many relationship with the Office ID field in the Offices table and the Office ID field in the Assignments table. Well, we don't have those 3 tables in our relationships window yet, so we need to add them. So Offices and Assignments. So Offices, click on the table Offices and drag it into the gray area. And it doesn't matter where. I wouldn't lay them on top of another table. And then Assignments. And I'm just going to put mine up here. I have seen people put them down here, but I like to leave them up here. So now we have 5 tables showing in our window, which that's all we have, are 5 tables in our whole database. And we're creating a one-to-many relationship with the Office ID field in the Offices table and the Office ID field in the Assignments table. So Offices ID in the Offices table to the Office ID in the Assignments table. Make sure they're both Office ID field names. Check all 3 boxes just like we've done. It is a one-to-many database or relationship. Click Create. Now we're going to create that one-to-one relationship that I was thinking we did earlier. The one-to-one relationship is with the client ID field in the clients table. Yes, yes. Did it give you a weird error message? Yes. Okay. I know this sounds crazy, but I like error messages. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the common one. It is because you have this open. And you need to close that table before you can actually create it. So now you can do office ID. And yours is different. Okay. Oh. I tried to force this. I tried to force this error from where I have to do it. It's because you're from all the oh, that's the same thing. Okay, here's why. Oh, did you not get finished with the? Database tools and edit our relationships. Okay, so here's what we're learning. If you do not have all of the information in the claims or in the offices, the one we just did, it won't let you create that relationship. So I made you stop. Yeah, that's fine. Did yours work, Carly? Yeah. Okay, close this X. Take hands. And open your offices. And you're gonna have to finish typing the data in here. Okay, so I'll bring that back up. Okay. It wouldn't let them create that relationship until it realized that all of these office IDs were in. All of these office IDs had to be in here in order for it to create a relationship. Otherwise, it was saying some were missing. And it couldn't enforce the referential integrity. That was the reason we checked that. If we would have left that box unchecked, then it would have let us create a relationship, but it wouldn't have worked the way we needed it to when we get to assessment number 3. So this is why it's very important for you to bring your textbooks. Also, if you have the table open, it won't let you create the relationships. You have to always close the table before trying to create the relationship. Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you. Just put the office ID number in. Don't worry about this address and everything. Put the office ID numbers in. Make sure you have them all. Something else I want you to notice that is a little different. Because I've created the relationship already, I now have a plus sign next to my office IDs, which we're going to use in the next assessment. Actually, that's in assessment number 4. Okay, so just put in the office IDs. Don't worry about all this other information, because it's the office ID that we're using to create that relationship. Okay, does everyone have it done? Anthony Gamble? All you need are the office IDs. Do you have that done already? Okay, you're good. Are you done, Anthony? Okay. All right. So now create that relationship. Close that table and go back to your relationships, and we're creating the relationships from the offices table, the office ID field in the offices table, to the office ID field in the assignments table. Should work. And it's one to many. Okay, now the rest of us, we're all in the same place now. We're going to create a one-to-one relationship with the client ID field in the clients table and the client ID field in the assignments table. Notice they're both primary keys. That's why it's one-to-one. So client ID in the clients table to the client ID field in the assignments table. When you bring this up, it says one-to-one. Put check marks in all of those, enforce referential integrity, and cascade the fields and records. Click create. Okay, those of you who didn't get this one done, this one-to-many, make sure you have it. Creating the one-to-many relationship with the office ID field in the offices table and the office ID field in the assignments table. Because what we're getting ready to do won't work if you don't have it done. We went from the client ID in the clients to the client ID in the assignments. That's what we wanted to check off your list. Great. Thank you. Okay, close this one and then see what you have. Okay, so we went from offices on TV. Okay. Now we're going from the client ID in the clients to the client ID in the assignments. That's one. And create. Okay. Now I want you to go to the, let's see, we're in relationships. Make sure you're on relationship tools design tab. By default, it's usually there, but click the relationship report. Brings up all 5 of your tables and all of the relationships you have created. And I want you to click the save. Now, for some weird reason, this on one computer across the street, it did something weird. So click the save button. It should be blank. It should say report 1. I want you to change it to report 2. Click OK. You should now have 2 reports. I have one computer across the street that for some weird reason, it saved over the first one. And now all they have is report 2. Which is okay, as long as you let me know, so I can remember that. Oh, okay. What are your relationships going? And the thing about access is that it doesn't give you click your layout by chance. Yeah, I have to redo this one. Offices and assignments. So we have a one-to-many. Oh. And then yeah, now click the relationship report. And now click the save button. Change that to report 2. Okay. And then, all right. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, you just got the 3. Okay, close that report. And you show 5. Okay, you show these 5. Now go to relationship tools design. Relationship report. There you go. Yeah, I think some of you are too busy on these. Change that to report 2. Okay, you need to go to your relationship report. Save. Report 2. Okay, yes.
It says that I already have this one. The report too. Oh, let's see you.
Just say yes.
Where's the other one?
It's not. Yeah, it just saved right over here. I don't know what that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're welcome. I've seen almost all error messages, but not all, not yet. All right, so let's close both of these, report 2 and the relationships window. We're back to this. We have 5 tables and 2 reports. Okay, we are ready for assessment number 3. Let's open the clients table. So double click clients. These are all of the clients for our insurance company. I'm sure there are more, but this is what they're showing us. We are going to delete the record for the client 9879. So scroll down, they are organized by client ID. So scroll down until you find 9879, Harold McDougall. Delete his entire record. You're going to get a weird message that says, I'm going to read it to you exactly. Relationships that specify cascading deletes are about to cause one record in this table, along with related records in related tables, to be deleted. Are you sure you want to delete this record? So when we delete Harold McDougall from the clients table, it will delete all of his information from any other table that is related to this table that has his information on it. So we only have to do this one time. Say yes, we are sure. We also want to delete the record for Vernon Cook, whose client number is 7335. Vernon Cook, same thing. Delete the record, say yes. We're not just deleting him from the clients table, we're deleting him from any other table that had a relationship with the clients table. Now we're going to change the information for Paul Wong. His client ID is 4300 4300, so find him in this table. Remember, they're organized by client ID. And his client ID is changing. It is 4300 right now, but we're changing it to 2560. Now close the clients table. It's going to ask if you want to save. It didn't, but it does save. Mine asked me before if I wanted to save, and I said yes, but if it doesn't, it does save. Now let's open the claims table just to take a look. We had 2 other records here previously. We had Harold McDougall's information and Vernon Cook's information, but they've been deleted. We didn't delete them from the claims table, but because we deleted them from clients and we had created that relationship, it got deleted from the clients or from the claims table as well. Also, take a look at 2560. Previously, this was 4300 was his client ID. Okay, then it didn't save, or you didn't change it? It didn't save then. Normally it always saves, so. Or you didn't have enforce inferential integrity and then the 2 cascade files and cascade records selected. Because if you didn't select those when you created the relationship, this wouldn't work. How about those other 2 people? Do you have a client 9879? Shows up at the very bottom. Okay, well, that's good then. And it's the exact same relationship, so. Okay, let's close this claims table. Now let's open the clients table again. We created those relationships. We get these plus signs next to our client numbers, our client IDs. We're going to insert what's called a sub data sheet because we can connect more than one sheet together. So right now we're looking at clients. We're going to find the record for Erin Hagedorn. I don't know, she's the second person on here. Client ID 1331. Click the plus sign to the left of her name. This insert sub data sheet comes up, and we want to look at her claims. So click the claims and click OK. And it will show this sub data set right beneath her information. This came directly from our claims table. And we need to change the amount of her claims. Currently it's $1,450, but we need to change it to $1,797. Now remember, all you need to do are type the numbers, 1797, and press enter. It will put the comma, dollar sign, decimal, 1797. Now, just to save time, we're not going to change her address or her zip code. We're going to collapse her record. See this minus here? And if I were to click a plus sign next to anyone else, it would bring up the claims. So we need to remove that connection that we've created. On the Home tab in the Records Gallery, we're going to click the More button. So click the More button, go to Sub Data Sheet, Remove. It has removed that connection or that connection we had created between the clients and the claims. Okay, now we're going to, I don't even know where I am anymore. We're going to insert another sub data sheet for coverage. So click the More button, Sub Data Sheet, and Sub Data Sheet again. Choose Coverage. Say OK. It's all right, because now if I were to click on any plus, it would bring that information up. But I want to expand them all. So click the More button again, Sub Data Sheet, Expand All. What? Well, I know that it worked, or maybe it didn't work, but I'm assuming that it worked. So we're going to make some changes to this. Client number 1379, find Claire. Client number 1379. We're not going to worry about changing her address or phone number. We're going to insert check marks in the medical field and the uninsured motorist field. So Claire has now, she has medical insurance on her automobile and uninsured motorist insurance. So we're going to put a check mark in those two items. We're going to find Joanne Donnelly, which is client number 1574, right beneath her. And we're going to remove the check mark in collision. So Joanne no longer has collision insurance on her automobile. Now find client number 3156. Keep scrolling down. And I don't like the scroll in Access either. My scroll button doesn't seem to really work the way I want it to. So Brenda, she has 2 vehicles insured with this company, and we're going to make sure we have check marks in uninsured motorist and collision for both vehicles.
What was the second person?
Joanne Donnelly. She was, let's see, client number 1574, right up at the very top of my screen. It said remove the check mark from collision. You're welcome. Okay, now we're going to collapse these records, but in order to do that, we have to be in one of the actual records for clients, not the ones for the coverage that we've opened beneath. So I'm going to click in Brenda's client ID number. I'm going to click on More, Sub Data Sheet, Collapse All. Then More, Sub Data Sheet, Remove. Remove that connection. Okay, click Save. That's the purpose of creating those relationships. That just made our lives a whole lot easier, because if I just went to the coverage table, this doesn't tell me, I don't know who these clients are, these client numbers. Their names aren't associated with this table. So doing it the way that we just did it just made this so much easier if I work for an insurance company. All right, so save. Again, just to be safe, close any tables that you have open. Save. If this is still blue, click it. If it's gray, it means it's saved. Close the entire database. And I want you to go to OneDrive into your files for this class. This class seems to do pretty good about saving correctly. So go to the files that you've created for this class, your folder that you shared with me, and I want you to upload this database file. One thing that, let me see if mine does it. I'm going to click the upload. I like the drag and drop method. I open here to my OneDrive. I click my folder icon because my downloads folder is still open. I can just click this and drag it on here. One thing I need to tell you is if it's got a database file that has a lock next to it, a red lock, do not use that one. Do not upload it because it will not let me open it. Use the other file. And you're probably looking at it, I don't know, maybe, probably. I don't know how your guys' looks. I thought it was details, but mine looks different than my morning students. So, or you can click the upload button and say upload. I can't show you because it should say upload files, and you go to your downloads folder and download it. I like to just click on this and drop it, but I cannot stress enough that if you have a red lock on here, and I don't know why I don't, but all of my students this morning did, you have two files. Then they're both named exactly the same thing, but one has a red lock. Do not upload the one with the red lock. Make sure it's the other one. And just click on it, drag it, and drop it, or click upload. And I wish I could show you, but my upload's different because I have downloaded the OneDrive app. Okay, and that's it. There's no homework. Thank the morning class for that. It's not really their fault, it's mine, but no homework today. I planned on there being homework, but